Hey, welcome back to Fed Up, the number one podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll, and back in the saddle is the one, the only, our executive producer, Chris Miner.
Going on, Josh? Did you miss me?
Of course, we all did. So glad you're back. It is going to be an amazing episode, and apologies to Andy Williams, but I think this is the most wonderful time of the year. 34 teams, 4 divisions, 612 regular season games, and it's all boiled down to 4 double elimination playoff brackets. It's playoff time, and that means it is time for my personal favorite episode of the season, our playoff preview. Playoffs for me, it's got all of the hope and freshness of opening day, but it's combined with that big game, big moment intenseness that comes with playoff baseball. We will be covering all 4 brackets in depth, breaking down each first round matchup, predicting winners, and highlighting one guest from one team in each bracket. But big episodes require big time sports anchor personalities, but we don't have any of those. So Chris and I put on our jerseys and our ties, and we're going to do our best to guide you through the action. So grab your printed brackets to follow along. It's time for our 90-minute playoff preview episode. We are going to start in the B bracket and crescendo all the way to the AAA. And we start with breaking news. Hit the sounder. The Red West Legends and the Northfield Millers have opted out of the postseason. So that bracket is going to be just 6 teams, still a double elimination format, but the top 2 seeds get byes and move on to the next round. The St. Anthony Norsemen, the Vesely Vulcans advance via the withdrawals. They are already 1 game closer to hoisting a cup and ending their season on a winning streak.
Yeah, 2 of the teams that could have very well be in the A bracket, even double A, depending on what year it is, right? For those 2 teams to then get a bye is pretty good advantage for them, and I like each of their chances moving forward, especially with this little advantage they've kind of stumbled upon.
As promised, we are going to break down each individual matchup for each of the teams. When I'm doing this, I'm looking at the 3 lasts. I'm looking at last year's performance in the playoffs. I'm looking at the last month of the team's season. Are they trending up? Are they trending down? And I'm looking at the last time that these 2 teams may have played each other and determining if that's relevant or not. Starting out the gate, we have the 4 seed and the 5 seed, the St. Patrick Shamrocks versus the St. Paul Senators. And we don't have to look very long ago to see the last time that these 2 teams played each other, because it was the very last game of the regular season. Shamrocks all over the Senators in that one, 12-2. And we expect this result to be any different going forward for either team.
In my humble opinion, I have no idea how the St. Paul Senators only have the few amount of wins that they do, given the 2 times we've seen them. I just have a feeling that maybe was that game in St. Patrick a chance?
It was.
So weekday game, maybe they had some of it. And, a team that's kind of fighting to get out of that bottom tier, 1 or 2 guys with availability issues is a big deal. So I don't know what happened on this particular game, but I feel like the Sens have a little momentum this year. And that's hard to believe given their win total, but I feel like they're playing really good ball, and I think they're a sneaky pick in this bracket, to be honest.
We did poll the Twitterverse on each of these games, so we're going to be reflecting on the results of those polls for each of the game too, and just seeing what the league thinks about some of these matchups. We had 74 people respond on this game. Nearly 61% of the respondents like the St. Patrick Shamrocks, and I'm inclined to agree with them. This is a team that has scored double-digit runs in each of their last 4 games. They were able to knock off a win against the River Falls Groupers, and we've talked about how they might not travel well, into Minnesota, especially late in the year. But they had big wins against the Senators. They had a close game, a high-scoring affair with Lonsdale, a team that made the Double-A. And then, they got pounded by Milltown, but they were able to notch, 10 runs in that one as well. I think the bats are coming alive for the Shamrocks at the right time. I think that this is a team that's going to ride that offensive momentum to at least a first-round win. I've got the Shamrocks over the Senators, and to up the stakes on our predictions on this, I feel pretty good about the homework I put in and how well I know this league. Every time we're wrong, we're going to make a $10 donation to Rhino Simonson's charity, First Inning Baseball Alliance. So we will be making that donation. If I have a losing record on these, we're going to double the transaction. Maybe there's some people, especially in Cambodia, who that equipment benefits. We'll be rooting for Nostradamus to really be terrible during this. I'm ready to put my money where my mouth is here, and we're going to do our best to give you some really reliable picks going forward throughout all of the bracket.
Yeah, I think that's a great little incentive for anyone who has the means to maybe perhaps match what ends up coming out of your pocket here. I know that we have a lot. We have quite the range with the audience we've captured this year. So awesome little organization they have there, and I think it's a really cool idea that you came up.
I'll appreciate that. And yeah, great idea to try and solicit some more donations for that group, especially when I only miss a game here or two. That $20 donation isn't going to go very far. So go ahead and move on to the second matchup in the B bracket. It's the Capital City Cannons as the 3 seed taking on the Chaska Diamonds, the 6. These two teams played each other as well this year. The Cannons coming out on top in that one 4-2. James Zapp had himself a heck of a day. Threw 6 innings on the mound, kept the Diamonds down offensively, also had a couple of hits at the plate. Cannons, per my sources, are going to be a little stretched with their roster in this first round game. They might have the Iron 9 rocking for that first round playoff game. The Diamonds, notable win this year against a really good Minnetonka Saints team. Which team can we expect to see when they take on the Cannons in the first round? Twitterverse thinks the Cannons will hold serve there and advance. 53% of the respondents there like the Cannons. I'm going to go with the upset. I like the Diamonds in the first round to advance over the hamstrung Cannons. What are your thoughts?
I'm with you. It's just been one of those years over St. Paul for Kalina and the gang. You hate to see it just because they're good dudes, and ever since I've been in the league, I've played against them almost every year. So I just feel like it's a lot of scrambling on their end right now, and call me crazy, but I feel like these teams that I don't know much about are a lot better than perhaps I even think they are. So I'm going upset with Chaska here as well.
So that takes care of the true first round games in the B bracket. We're going to go ahead so we can feature each team at least in one pick segment. We'll carry it around further in the B. So the way we've got it shaping out, we've got the Shamrocks taking on the St. Anthony Norsemen. The Norsemen, of course, being the 1 seed in that bracket. This is the team, and we'll talk about it with our guest to do a little foreshadowing. But this is a team who had some real tight games with a lot of really good teams throughout the season. I think they are much better than deserving to be in the B. I think this team takes care of the Shamrocks pretty handedly, and 76% of our Twitter responders agree.
I'll say, whenever you have Goose, you're going to ride that right arm as far as he'll take you, and I think he's all about it. I like we said, St. Anthony could be a double-A team. They just happen to be playing in the B bracket this year due to the same reasons a lot of us have, I'm sure. But, Gingrich is hitting the ball like crazy, and seeing Goose out there in the playoffs is going to be same song, different verse, man. So I like the Norse to make a run in this actually as well.
So then the other matchup in that round that would be taking place Sunday, all of these games at St. Bonnie, would be the Chaska Diamonds versus the Vesely Vulcans. Vulcans were a team that got off to a hot start. They were invigorated by their off-season acquisition in Scott Angus. They beat your group. They've had a couple of quality wins, but they've really petered out. If we're looking at the last month of their season, there's not much there that is going to tell us that the Vesely Vulcans can put this together, but that stretch of their schedule was really difficult. And I do feel like this is a team that can get it going again when they're playing some competition that is more in line with their skill set. So I do like the Vulcans to advance against the Chaska Diamonds in round 2. 86% of Twitter agrees. I would guess it's probably going to be Angus going in that one. He's got 3 of their 4 wins on the year, so one would be led to believe that he will take the hill for the Vulcans. He's going to be motivated to start a playoff game. That's not something he had a chance to do very often when he was a member of the A's. I like Angus rising to the occasion and getting it done for a first-round win on Sunday.
I'm with you. I like him along with Steiny. I mean, Angus has thrown 5 complete games this year. That deserves a call-out. I mean, that's pretty nasty work for one summer for one guy. So kudos on that. And we were on the business end of one of those. Vesely, I think that I feel like they're a team when they have their best 9, they're pretty tough to deal with, especially in that group of teams that they have down in B. So I think Vesely moves on as well.
Well, let's go ahead on that note. Let's go ahead and bring on our B guest representative. He's a guy that is going to have a lot to say about the top seeded Norsemen. Let's go ahead and bring him on. We are sitting now with our B bracket representative. It is Dustin Gingrich of the St. Anthony Norsemen. Dustin, welcome to Fed Up.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, maybe not quite the season that you guys had imagined for yourselves, but I just can't help but see how many times that you guys have played some really good teams extremely close. I mean, it was a 2-run loss to the Minnetonka Saints. It was a 1-run loss to the Grays. It was a close game with the Rockford Rail Splitters you lost by a run. And that just seemed to happen time and time again for you guys. Talk a little bit about just how you're feeling being in the B, how it feels to come up just short, but play some really good baseball against some really good teams.
I think that very few teams actually have the season they envisioned when the season starts, right? And if you're in that group, you're lucky and you get to be in that top bracket. You know, here we are, we're sort of the best of the lousiest, and we're fine to be there because the guys that are there and stuck with us the whole season have had a good time. We've brought on some really good new guys this year. We've got tracks on a few new guys for next year too, so this may be the last time we're in the B bracket, hopefully. But I've also never had a playoff win in the years that I've managed this Norseman team, and they make sure to remind me of that every single year. And so now here we are, day 0 of the postseason for this year, and I guess we've already got a forfeit win. So does that count as my first playoff or postseason victory? Maybe.
You know, I think unofficially we're going to have to call that a bye.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. The app told me it was a 7-0 win, but I'll take a bye for right now. So we'll see. We're also trying not to tell our spouses that we don't play on Friday night now. It's just going to take one guy to show up to Village Fest, and they're going to ruin it for everybody else. So hopefully we'll be able to just find somewhere to lay low. But that's the story of the season, right? It's a couple of dinks and dunks here or there, and I think that 3 or 4 times during the year I kept chatting out the guys in the app. I said, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but here we are. Like, we could have won that game. This happens there, we could have won that game. There's also, if you look down that list, several games that we definitely lost that we really should have probably won too. So Red West already beat us, but they've already not decided to be in the B bracket either. They don't want to lose to us the second time. But that's the way it is. You get your guys to show up, you're going to play better, and if everybody shows up, we've got a really good team, and I'm really proud of what they can do when they're all there, and hopefully we get most of them to show up in the B bracket.
Just looking up and down your roster, I mean, you've had a great season yourself, doing all you can to lead the charge. 18 hits for you, hit 429 this year, but such incredible veterans on your roster, guys like John Novak and Paul Morita and Steve Janke holding down the hill. Remarkable that you guys haven't won more games in the postseason. I know you had the 1 year that you took off, but now seemingly as the 1 seed in the B, definitely a favorite, I think, to win that now that you're there. But just talk about what it feels like to be able to push that reset button. Despite the record, now you can get to come into a postseason format where you get to play competitive games against teams that are, around your record, and gives you a chance to kind of refuel, retool, and go hard and potentially hoist a cup at the end of the year.
Yeah, it gives us a chance to try a few things maybe that we didn't want to try during the regular season too. The veteran leadership, that is a big key to a lot of this. Some of that is a nice way of saying we're just getting really old. Everybody else seems to be getting younger. We just stay older and older and older. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to hand the ball over to somebody like Goose. That's Janke's nickname. You can call him Goose, Sandhill, whatever you want to call him. It's fine as long as big, tall bird. And the competitiveness and just the track record. We were even talking about this last night. We have a Phil Sankenberg is on this roster still too, right? And he's one of the original guys that founded the team, and it's just nice to have that history and that background. But I think there's still 5 teams left in the Fed that started when we started, and so next year we're going to push for a division of original 5 and see what we can do with that. If we can't get the relegation model to figure out, maybe we can have a division of just the original 5 or original 6 like they did in hockey.
Yeah, I forget the teams that would even be in that original group. But in Federal League terms, remind us who are those original teams for, especially so many newcomers.
I'm not one of the people that were there originally, but Paul and Phil and Steve definitely were. I think they listed them off last night as the Mustangs, the Diamonds, and if they're watching this, and Goose probably is, he's probably already scratching his head wondering why I wasn't paying more attention last night when we brought this up.
Red West, could they be in there?
Oh, yeah, because they were Coon Rapids at the time, right? And then who else? It was one of the St. Paul teams, maybe the JCs. Marita's. This is gonna be
awesome.
Marita's last year as the general manager for the Crew. He's still gonna play. He's gonna keep his HOF cred and still play, but he's not gonna be the guy doing scheduling and any of that stuff next year. So
Good for him.
yeah, right. Smart move. Get out.
Talk to us a little bit about the pieces you've added and the potential guys you have lined up next year. What excites you most? Who excites you most? What are they going to add to the roster?
Every time we went through as you get older, you get bad knees, you need more catchers, right? So our main priority coming in last season was we needed catchers, we needed catching. Marita can only do this so many years, and he's still catching in the 50 and over league too, so we don't want to break him down in the Federal League. So we managed to find a couple catchers last year. We try to stay local. Home field, as nice as it is, it also has a few restrictions. It tells you got to have a certain percentage of guys in the neighborhood on the roster. So we're trying to look inward towards St. Anthony and keep that local, keep that there. You know, it's just nice to be able to get some fresh blood in there to just change the mentality a little bit, shake things up, and make sure that we can keep on the traditions that are working out right, and be able to field a team. Really, like the older you get, the less likely you are to be able to field the actual 9 guys that'll come out and play. So that's a big part of it. I think the value of the guys we've had and the value of the guys we joined this year, like every time you looked on the field, you had 2 or 3 up the middle that were brand new to the roster over the course of this year. And that's huge, right? If you can fill up the middle in that capacity, then that tells you you're bringing the right kind of people in. And even though you're 4-14, I don't think the team's ever lost this many games in the course of the season, but the mentality's been good the whole year. Everybody's stayed up. And I think we already know for sure that we've got enough guys to play on the weekend. B bracket, watch out, because we actually got a full complement of players for a change. Usually we're trying to scrap together an I or 9 this time of year. Everybody's on vacation, but I think we're in a good spot this time around.
A lot to be excited about. Despite some of the struggles for this season, you guys clearly are building on a good core with a good mix of some veteran players in there as well. Good luck getting that first playoff victory as a manager. We will certainly be watching. Nostradamus will go on a limb and say that you guys are going to go ahead and grab that first managerial win, at least for the skippers. But we'll be watching. Good luck through the postseason, and we'll definitely be rooting for your group, among others, to lift the cup at the end of the year and end on a winning streak.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it is time now to dive into the A bracket, but before we do, we want to give a shout out to one of our A sponsors. This one being the Tap Society, the official hangout of the Federal League, quickly becoming it, whether you're grabbing post-game burgers, wings, or one of their 26 rotating craft taps. The Tap Society is the spot to celebrate a win or shake off a loss. Great food, better beer, and the best vibes in town. Support those who support the league and head to the Tap Society. Tell them Fed Up sent you. Don't forget to maybe see that tap wagon out at the playoffs or book your postseason party. Private events available on Monday nights in August and September. Be sure to let them know that you heard about it here on Fed Up.
On a personal note, as a guy who, is a parent, 45, not real jazzed to go out and find new places, but you get sick of Chili's. So I'll make it easy for you. Everyone's looking for a place with awesome drinks and good food, and you're going to go on Yelp and all this nonsense. Screw it. Go to the Tap Society. You're going to be happy. It's super easy, super just chill. Best vibes, seriously. Just skip all the nonsense and just go straight to Tap Society first.
Kicking us off in the A bracket is our 1-8 matchup. This one features the Metro Loons, who finished their season 8-10. A loss assigned by the league late in the year proves to potentially be the difference between the AA and the single A. The Loons unable to schedule a game between Red West. I know the commissioner recused himself in that decision. Obviously, a conflict of interest exists when his team is potentially involved in the scheduling. But the executive committee, mainly our secretary, did some fact finding on it and ruled a double forfeit was the right call here. Just a cautionary tale to teams to make sure to schedule your games early and take care of that in the early part of the season. If an issue exists, stay after it, stay in communication, and then potentially bring that up to the league's attention. But do it in May, June, right? Give us some time to potentially act on that, because obviously everyone wants to see this play out on the field. A little bit of not necessarily controversy surrounding the Loons heading into this first round matchup, but they didn't do themselves any favors by sliding down into the A, because they end up with a really difficult 8-seeded matchup against the RC Rockets. That game is going to be at Chaska Athletic, so they got a beautiful stage to go ahead and do that. That'll be on Friday night at 7:15. I'm thinking it's got to be Bujold for the Loons. I'm thinking it's got to be Riedberger for the Rockets. And what a pitching matchup that ends up being. Maybe one of the best we've ever seen from both sides in an A bracket, because those two can really bring it.
You're absolutely right. The RC Rockets are, I believe, a hungry team, an ascending team, and a team that has aspirations for AA and perhaps further, and the young core to possibly do it. And for a Loons team that kind of had to deal with this, is the juice going to be there still? I mean, who knows? I know it sounds like Twitter's chimed in on this, and we got 68% of you guys on the Loons wagon for this one. Personally, I mean, I've seen the Rockets this year, and there's just something different about them. So I personally am thinking upset with this one, along with the possible letdown with what's transpired with the Loons over the past few days.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel like there's most of the respondents on that poll probably just haven't seen the Rockets play. We played in the East this year. We got a chance to see them twice. My team lost to them once. I don't know how yours fared, but I mean, their shortstop, Joe Hain, had 24 hits on the year. He almost hit 500. Brent Larson was an all-star. He had 19 hits, hit 442 for these guys. Anthony Molinar, Tommy Fisk, they've got a bunch of guys that can hit the ball well. Already talked about Riedberger and what he's able to do on the mound. They've got Colin Warren, laying in the weight to potentially maybe close out a game. I don't know that he's back to being able to start, a game and finish it from start to finish. I don't think he's there yet, but I definitely think that they could plan to use him in a potential save late inning situation to kind of close something down. Could be something to that. Maybe the Loons are disappointed they're not in the bracket that they wanted to be in. Maybe there's, potential for some infighting on how things were handled administratively, in the schedule. I'm going to go on a limb here with you and take the Rockets in that first round matchup Friday night at Chaska Athletic. An 8-1 will kick off this bracket in a very exciting way.
Last thing I'll say about it is this might just be a case of, hey, textbook overthinking, because the Loons, let's just not forget that the Loons just hit extra base hits all day, every day, 24/7, 365. Yeah, 365. And we might just be, maybe they get to go to Chaska and play in the playoffs. I'd be pumped about that. So we might be making a mountain out of a molehill here. But that being said, I like the Rockets vibe.
You're absolutely right about the Loons and what they're able to do offensively. This team scored 103 runs on the season. Most teams in that category of offensive productivity ended up making the AA or higher. They also allowed 111. They have some good pitching. We talked about Bujold, but yes, offense definitely the strength of this Loons team. Julian Oviedo had an unbelievable year, had 24 hits, almost hit 550 on the season. Bujold turned in a great offensive year himself. Andy Pass is a great hitter. Ryan Hesselby there. He is a phenomenal hitter as well. So could expect this game to be high scoring. But if one of these starters gets locked in and goes the distance, I think that will definitely, be the story of the game. I think obviously both teams capable of winning this one, but I've got a feeling about those Rockets being different this year, just like you do.
Yep, but Bujold has been there, done that, and he's a bulldog. So he is an X factor if he happens to get the start. I mean, all bets might be off because he is a gamer.
Moving on to our next matchup. It's a 4-5 matchup. The St. Paul JTs taking on the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks. These are two teams both coming out of the East, so they played each other a couple of times this season already. Those teams split in those matchups. The JTs got them once handedly, and the St. Croix Silverbacks edged them narrowly in the other one. JTs, we just saw them on Monday. This team can hit as well. The top half of that lineup specifically is really good. Mike Wickman hit a bomb to right field off of a really good starter in Herman Solomon for us. I was very impressed with this group. That you would expect that they're going to have their roster. St. Croix Valley, I would say that they haven't had a ton of postseason success. I don't know what they run into for roster availability, when it comes to the postseason. But for me, maybe it's a recency bias, but I kind of like the JTs to get this one done. We've talked about throughout the season how these guys have been stalwarts in the B bracket for so long, finally finding themselves up as a mid-seed in the A. There was a chance that they could have snuck into that AA for a long time. It looked really good. But 79% of Twitter responders agree with us. They like the JTs over the Silverbacks.
I'm the same. You kind of touched on all the main points there. I mean, the Silverbacks issue along with the other Wisconsin team, having the people that come over here at this particular weekend of the summer to come play baseball. And it's tough. I get it. So I think that along with the new juice, I mean, let's be honest, the JTs were, A, they were bipolar, but B, they were fun. They were explosive. They were unpredictable, which is, I mean, you used to be able to know what to expect with them, and you don't now, which is awesome for them, awesome for the league, I think. And I think that they're going to ride this energy into this first round.
Next matchup features our darlings of the year, the Minnetonka Mustangs. We liked this team for so long. They had such an impressive run. Had a chance on the last day of the season to beat the St. Michael Angels and climb up into that AA. They didn't get it done, end up falling via the runs allowed tiebreaker to the 3 seed in the A. They draw the Chaska Voyagers in the first round in a 6 seed. That game will be on Saturday at Big Willow at 1:45. Voyagers are a crapshoot of a team. I know they've got a couple of town ball players. I don't know what the town ball schedule looks like, if they'll be available. But if they're there, this team can score. They can put up runs. But if they're not there, if they are busy elsewhere, this team really struggles to get it going offensively. Who do you like in this one?
Well, selfishly, as a team, as a member of a team that was trying to sneak into AA, and not understanding all the tiebreakers and who's playing when and where, knowing that they beat Brower and the Lakers the other day in the opener of their doubleheader was kind of an uneasy thing. So I think they are trending upwards as well. And I know it's a common theme. It seems like Richfield, JTs, Mustangs, all these ascending kind of teams that you're used to seeing in B and A kind of trending upwards, perhaps staging themselves for deeper runs in brackets higher next year. So I like the Mustangs.
0.8% of Twitter responders agree with you. These two teams did not play each other during the season. The Voyagers have had such good success in the A bracket. I feel like they are comfortable there. They've won it in recent years. But and I'd love to disagree with you here along the way so that we have a little bit of back and forth banter, but I like the Mustangs as well. I think they hold serve and get it done out at Big Willow and advance in that first round game.
Well, let me be devil's advocate then, for just so the Voyagers don't just get pooped on this whole time. I will say this: we might be susceptible to creating narratives in our own head because we do not know what these teams really look like. So we kind of create these things in our head as the season goes on. So perhaps, okay, let me say it like this. I think a team like Chaska is probably very familiar with them, right? They've probably played them and crossed paths with them more often than you or I have. So there might just be a thing where they know what to expect. They know how to play against them. Who knows? So, the Voyagers you root for them because there's great dudes in, but you just never know what you're gonna get on a particular weekend. One of my favorite teams.
Yeah, they're fun to hang out with. That's certainly a given. I will say that I think the Voyagers might be a little stretched too in terms of who they get there, especially if the Cubs are going, on either side of their game. I mean, Dewey's as good as they come, so he could certainly, shine in that moment and scratch off enough runs. Like you mentioned, these two teams were in the same division for a long time, so probably a lot of familiarity with each other. But this is the year the Mustang, man. They go 8-10. That's a pretty good year for them. I had them in our original season preview, much lower in win total. So I've got to keep riding that horse, pun intended. Brings us to our last game in the A bracket. We've got the number 2 seeded St. Michael Angels taking on the 7 seed Eden Prairie Flyers. St. Michael closed the year on a hot stretch, winning their last 3 games to get to 8-10. The Flyers, some mixed results. They end up finishing as the 7 seed with a record of 5-13. This team scored 87 runs, but it's a game that happened against the Rockford Rail Splitters that I'm going to reference and picking my pick on this one. The Rail Splitters ran into the Flyers, and by all witness accounts, the Flyers just were locked in, driving the ball over the ballpark. Flyers win that game 16-3. If that's the Flyers team that's going to be coming to the postseason, I think this team, coming off their B championship last year, could win this A8 bracket this year. I like the Flyers to pull the upset in the first round. That means we have the 8 over the 1 and the 7 over the 2 in the A bracket. I think that would make some very interesting headlines and create a scenario where anybody could win. I'm not in the majority, though, when it comes to the Twitterverse. 69% of respondents like St. Michael to hold serve. What say you, Mr.
Again, I don't know what their plan is and who's in shape to throw and whatnot, but anytime Dan Pluff is a possibility, I'm taking St. Michael. Second, it's not like Dan Pluff's the only guy, but I mean, Model's thrown solid for them all year, and I don't know enough about Eden Prairie. I thought, and I'm with you, when they made a little noise against Rockford there, they kind of caught everyone's attention. We spoke on it a couple times, but that being said, I think St. Michael, I believe, will have pitching lined up for this weekend, and I'll take that.
Yeah, I've got, it's not a bad call if Pluff goes. My homework, my research indicates that this will probably be Model, and you're right, he has had a good season, but I just feel like Eden Prairie, if they bring the roster they brought against Rockford, will be a little bit too much for them. Could end up scoring 8 to 10 runs in this game and pulling the upset there. If it's Pluff, that kind of changes my paradigm here, but I'm going to go with my homework on this one, and I'm going to stick with the Flyers to pull the upset.
$20. Cha-ching!
Well, that's enough hearing our opinions on this bracket. For a little bit of additional insight, let's go out to our A bracket guest. We'll welcome Mike Wickman from the St. Paul JT. Let's bring him on. It is our pleasure now to welcome a guest representing the A bracket. Will be Mike Wickman of the St. Paul JTs. Mike, welcome to Fed Up.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. A longtime follower of this podcast. Really excited to be on it today. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join. So you guys end up as the 4 seed in the A, It's been a pretty up and down year for you guys. I mean, to highlight the polarity of it, I mean, you had a 20-plus win against Vesely, and you had a 20-plus loss against the East Metro Mammoth. Just talk a little bit about the season's ups and downs for you guys, and maybe for some of the reasons why such the extreme results.
Sure. Yeah. I heard those comments, and I love it. Bipolar, whatever. It's fine. Yeah. So, I've always said the 35-plus manager at the end of the year, that the one thing that they always say is, if I only had my guys, right? So that's usually the case with us. So we've got a lot of guys that are busy. I know a lot of people have that going on. Sometimes we're scraping, for 9 guys for, just trying to get across the line, like many of the teams. And so, you have things that go sideways. I would say the other thing that we're doing is we're rebuilding this year. We've Jim Block has kind of gone and is now doing just 50s and 60s mostly. That leaves us to kind of start a little bit anew, right? We have a lot of main guys that we're still working on, but when we get into those games where we're down too, we're like, well, let's just try something new. Let's throw some different guys up there. Let's get them some reps, and let's look at this as a positive, right? Even though sometimes playing those Mammoth teams, that when they bring their guys, it's a hard. There's not a lot of positive to look for sometimes. That's, Josh, that's what I would say is, we've had some real streaky ups and some streaky downs, and absolutely that's what happens with the team that's kind of inexperienced. And that's what we have. We have some newer guys that are coming up that are hopefully learning a little bit this year, and will be better set up in the playoffs and next year as we go.
Well, I love the long-term vision for the St. Paul JTs. You guys have a great core to really build around. A lot of great hitters at the top of that lineup. Guys like Lucas Corner and Jeremy Brooks. Yourself, I will mention to your first-round opponent, do not miss up on you, because Wickman hit a ball, pulled to right field that was way gone in that moment. But just talk a little bit about some of the guys in your core and what you are excited to really build that nucleus around.
Yeah. Lucas Kerner, you mentioned him. He is, I would say our kind of introverted heart and soul. So Lucas is a very analytical mind. He's a great baseball player, played down in Rochester, went to Northwestern actually with me, and we played a lot of club baseball there. He was, I think, on the varsity for a brief portion. But he is a great catcher, plays the game very well defensively, very smart, great hitter at the plate. And like you said, he's a great guy to build around. He's all around, just wants to help the team, help us build the positivity, and that's a big thing for us. Yeah, Jeremy Brooks, another guy that's been around a long time. He's one of the guys that's kind of the co-manager with us. We're kind of taking a team approach. So yeah, another great guy, gets on base, steals bases. We have another couple guys that are coming up. Nick Love is the second. It's his second year in the league, and with his second year, he's starting to pick up some things and really starting to come into his own. So it's really fun to see those guys. On the other side, we have Wade Johnson, who's a perennial. He pitches all the time, but Wade, is just consistent, right? He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He throws that Zito curveball that some guys struggle with and don't see a lot in this league. And so he's a great pitcher. With, Lucas has also gotten quite a few innings for us and has a really nice whip this year. So, it's one of those things where we've kind of developed, take your best player and put him out there, lever him as much as possible. That's another kind of tip that we're leaning into. So, Josh, excited about the playoffs, excited to play with some of these teams that we know pretty well, all right? We played Eden Prairie last year in the B championships. So we've got a St. Croix Valley, we play them quite a bit. RC Rockets, they're our buddies. And then a bunch of other teams that we played against, friendly and against the Voyagers the other day. So we're excited to play in this bracket for sure.
You mentioned some familiarity with your opponents. Your first round matchup against the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks, you split with them earlier in the year. Any expectations running into a familiar foe in round one?
Yeah, I mean, they hit the ball, right? Those guys have some strong bats all up and down that lineup, and they're going to throw strikes. Like, that's what it is. And you got to come out and play our game. Like, that's it. And just see where things end up. I would say there's any tips or tricks other than we're going to bring our guys. And I think we've got our guys. So that's really exciting, right? To have that positivity going into the weekend.
You guys played in a lot of close games this season, 1-3-1 in games decided by 1 run or less. Talk a little bit about some of those late game situations and what maybe you can hope to improve upon in the playoff games, where it seems like they oftentimes come down to one missed play or one made play here or there.
Yeah. I think this year we've struggled a little bit with just how do we make decisions around pitching changes. And when is it time to make those changes? We don't have one manager, as I was saying, so we talk about it a lot, right, when we're out there. And I think it's just something we got to talk about a little bit, probably in more detail as we start to get into it. Otherwise, I would say it's again, newer people playing new positions, right? We're moving guys around a lot. You know, you have somebody playing second that maybe hasn't played second as much, or playing right field. And I think one of those games I had, 2 uncharacteristic errors. Those things happen even when you're a veteran. So what you got to do is say, well, yeah, you mentioned 5 games there, right? That's 5 games. We don't play a lot of games. That's a small sample size. I'm a big believer in statistics. Look longer term and we're going to be fine. Like, we just got to keep working our reps, keep getting our stuff done, staying positive. Things are going to work out for us.
I was going to say, we faced you a couple times and we had to come back to beat you the second time. And I believe the first time we got rained out in the 5th, and you guys were actually just starting to hit the ball a little bit. So it was kind of, fortuitous for us in that regard. But new core, learning to win, that's all part of the bumps and bruises. But when we checked in on you guys earlier in the month, you were flirting with maybe even slipping into AA if things go right in the last part of July or whatever. And we had to come back 1-3-1 in close games, right? You're a couple plays away from maybe sneaking yourself in. What would that have been like going from JTs have been B basically, right? For just hopping into AA. Did you guys have a thought? Did that ever cross your mind, or were you just basically trying to keep it together week by week?
Yeah, we were just playing, right? I think at the beginning of the year we said, let's just play, see where where it all ends up. We don't think we're a B team, right? But you never know, right? You never know how things go. You never know how injuries go. What I would say, Chris, just looking at it, we, a few years back, I don't remember if it was 4 or 5 years back, we won the AA championship. So we know what that feels like. There's guys on the team that have done that, and we've been, pretty disappointed being in the B, right? We just didn't feel like we really wanted to be there, but we were there. The facts are the facts, right? So we did our best in the B to really bring it when we were playing playoffs. I think we, a lot of times showed up there and made, a couple. I'm saying it's a B championship, right? It's not like the top, but you're still out there playing. You got to win a bunch of games, and you're there because you want to play baseball. We kind of took it the same way, right? We said, okay, if we make it to AA, that's great. If we make it to A, that's fantastic too. We just want to see where we end up, and we want to play competition that we think we can play with, right? So that was really more of it than anything else. But yeah, we wanted to win those games. I can still see that ground ball coming to me that got through my legs. That would have been the 3rd out of that game before you guys went on your run.
Yeah.
It makes me disappointed, but that builds me, builds up some fire in me too. Like anybody else, any competitor says, okay, I'm going to use that next time to dial in a little bit more, right? To focus a little bit more, to get some more reps. So that's kind of the mantra of our team, is we're just going to keep coming. We're not going to stop. We're just going to keep working and see where things end up.
I feel like there's maybe a handful of half a dozen teams that are kind of in the same boat, us included, where you never know. We have the potential to be a AA team, a single team, a B team, just depending on circumstances. So it's just but if we get hot at a certain time, it's hard not to just start to drift and take a look at what's going on above you. So I was just curious how much of that might have been going on your guys' neck of the woods over there.
Oh yeah, I feel like our teams are linked in some like strange way, and it just, things happen like that. But no, I think you guys don't get hot either. You don't let us get warm, I think was the statement that you used to use. But yeah, exactly. And baseball is streaky, and that's why you have to stay on a positive space, right? If you get negative when things don't go right, then things tend to pile up, right? So yeah, it's been a fun ride. Like we've had kind of a rough one at the end here, but you know what? We had some good streaks in the middle, and you got to take all of it, right? When you play a season of baseball.
Well, the St. Paul JTs, you mentioned that AA championship a couple years ago, clearly on a great growth trajectory, stalwarts in the B for so long. That no longer the case. You guys up in the A bracket this year, played a lot of competitive games against some really great teams, took the Pipers down to the last inning twice, winning one of those games, tied with River Falls. Clearly you guys are a team that can beat anybody when you've got your guys, which we fully expect to have in the postseason here. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Best of luck to you in the playoffs. We'll be watching.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all you do. Like I said, we do not deserve you. But thank you for being here and doing this.
You bet.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
Yep, see ya.
Well, we keep marching on. It is time now to talk about our Double A bracket. But before we do, we are going to highlight one of our main sponsors of this entire season, Max Bats. They are handcrafted in the heart of Minnesota and trusted by pros and weekend warriors alike. Whether you are swinging for the fences or just looking to find the barrel, Max Bats delivers elite wood with custom options to fit your game. Precision, power, performance, that's Max Bats. Check them out at maxbats.com. Elevate your swing today. And don't forget, you can save 20% with promo code FEDA. Well, our first game in the bracket in Double A features the top-seeded Rockford Rail Splitters taking on the 8th seed, the Lonsdale Jokers. This game will be Friday night at 8:30 under the lights at Alley Magnet in Burnsville. Two teams that don't see each other a ton. Teams in the north and the south, they just don't see each other that often. This will be one of those rare exceptions. But the style of play here seems to kind of match. Lonsdale and Rockford, the only two teams who made the Double A who allowed 100-plus runs that aren't named the South Metro Saints. How about that stat? Lonsdale scored 105 on the year, allowed 145. Rockford scored 145, allowed 111. So both these teams can hit. Both these teams at times have struggled a lot throwing the ball, defending, whatever it might be. You've got to think that most of those issues are probably roster related, who these guys are getting there throughout the year. You got to think that both are going to show up once it comes playoff time. This could be a really high scoring, really fun game to watch. I for sure will be out there at Alley Magnet on Friday. That's just one of the cooler hangout nights of the year when it comes to the Fed. What is your take on this one?
Well, before I go into the thing, you just brought up Friday night in the Fed. Lonsdale is a money team to hang out with on a Friday. Just FYI. So that's going to be awesome. I feel like Rockford, they do mirror each other a lot as far as, their offense versus their pitching and whatnot. I feel like Rockford might have a higher end pitching maybe on when all their guys show up, but Lonsdale has no business being an 8 seed in this division. Lonsdale has the potential to be a AAA team any year, just depending on the circumstances. We should just call them the circumstances, because we all know what we're talking about at this point. But I like Rockford. I think they're kind of, they just missed out on the AAA, right? And they were playing in a really tough division, by the way. So they probably have some aggression to take out. And I mean, Lonsdale's a bunch of dogs and they're gamers, but I think Rockford's arms are going to prevail in this one.
Both these teams made the second weekend in their respective brackets last year. Rockford playing in this same Double A, Lonsdale last year playing in the Single A. 78% of Twitter responders like the Rail Splitters in this one. I'm inclined to agree. I think just the experience at this level, the experience that the Rail Splitters will bring into this one, having those two guys at the top of the order, Jeremy Loretz and Todd Haig, are just absolute killers when it comes to getting on base, scoring runs, stealing bases, setting the tone. I like the Rail Splitters to win in this one. I'm going to say it's going to come as advertised, though. High scoring. I'm going to go with like a 12-8, 12-9 final somewhere.
Sure, and I might be way off base here, but based on we've seen both in the postseason. I've seen Rockford a couple times, Lonsdale a couple times. I feel like Rockford is the type of team that is dialed in at this time of year. They are focused. Todd, the guys you just mentioned, they are gamers and they have one thing in mind. Lonsdale, I feel like, needs to be woken up sometimes to really get into things, which they're plenty good at, and they go on plenty of runs. So I like Rockford in this first one.
Wow, and you mentioned they're dialed in when it comes to the playoffs, and you talk about the Rockford's ability to give up a lot of runs during the season. But if you look at last season's postseason run, right? Jesse Berg one-hits us in the first round of that matchup. They dime the Groupers 11-1 in the second one. So they've allowed one run now in 2 games, right? They go on to lose to Burnsville in a 4-1 low-scoring game. And then they get eliminated against us in another low-scoring game. So this team, I think you're right, can pitch. when they get the guys there, when the stakes are high. But I see tomorrow, Lonsdale, I think they get their guys there too when it comes to the postseason. They scored a ton of runs in that A bracket run last year. I got that feeling it's going to be a ton of people at this game, high scoring, super fun to watch. Our second matchup in this one, let's skip down the bracket and stay on Friday night. The other matchup will feature the River Falls Groupers, the 2 seed, taking on the South Metro Saints. Two teams once again coming from the same division within that Eastern division. You guys saw the Groupers twice this year. You've seen them a number of times in recent history. You've seen them in the postseason. I feel like these are two teams that know each other pretty well. The story of this game comes down to who's throwing for the Groupers. Is it going to be Marks or Meyer? This is a group that just hasn't brought a postseason roster to the postseason in quite some time. They usually outperform during the year and then quickly fluster out in the postseason. Would love to see something different from this group. I don't know if Marks is still playing town ball or if he's got a game this weekend, if they're still going, but would love to see one of those guys go against you and make this really a game.
Yeah. Well, I think traditionally, just by default, we've beat it into the ground already. Wisconsin teams coming over this way. That's one thing. But traditionally, I believe this is just their shitty weekend every year for their availability. And it's not like they've got a ton of new guys on the team, right? So it is going to be what it is. So I don't know if they have their full complement of assets going into this weekend. Frankly, I mean, I hope they don't, just for my sake. But I feel like we've been playing some decent ball. We had a little hiccup against you guys at the end, but you guys have been playing decent ball too. So yeah, the groupers are, when they have the full complement, are as good as anybody in the league. It's just whether or not they're
two teams, as you mentioned, finishing on a high note. Groupers 11-6-1 to end the year. South Metro Saints had that 5-game win streak to get you guys back to that 500 mark. Groupers' reputation precedes them here, at least in the Twitterverse. 54% of respondents actually like the Saints to go ahead and pull this upset. The way I've watched you guys hit the ball here in the last month of the season, I'm going to stay on the Saints train here. I think you guys get this done, whether it be you're beating one of the top arms, which I think you're totally capable of doing. We'll remind everybody listening that these two teams split their season matchups. So these are two teams that I feel like are fairly matched to begin with. This isn't some kind of lopsided 2-7, but I guess for your group, if I had to make a prediction of who might be going, I would guess it's probably going to be Grant going for you guys. But I like your bats to prevail in this one, and I will remind you, the South Metro Saints were my AA champion in the season preview before the year kicked off.
I did remember that, but I gotta be honest, until about a couple days ago, I was afraid we were gonna have to talk about how we didn't even make the bracket. So thank you to the baseball gods for allowing us to slip in the back door. And so we'll see how the chips fall from here. But yeah, the groupers are an awesome bunch to play against. We know them plenty well. It'll be fun regardless of who they have. When we split with them, by the way, they had their traveling Minnesota team on a weekday. Okay. So do with that what you will.
That game going down at 8:15 at Alley Magnet as well. So get out and see some AAA teams, but stick around for the AA because, as we know, there's some really good baseball still being played in this bracket. Speaking of really good baseball, the next game we'll cover, the Apple Valley A's will be taking on the Milltown Outlaws. This game at 11 o'clock on August 2nd. The A's, winners of their last two, but Milltown, winners of their last six. Both teams finishing at 10-8. Both teams scoring just over 100 runs on the year. Both teams allowing, a margin in the 80s. I would say that these two teams on paper, very similar, very evenly matched. This should be a fun one to watch, a fun one to play in, fun one to manage. I think we've got our work cut out for us. I think that's a pretty tough draw for our group. in the first round. I will tell you that it's going to be Tim Scott for us. So I like the fact that, we'll have the ace going, but I'm going to guess that it's going to be Tony Rome for them. So they'll have the ace going as well. Could be anybody's game. So break the tie for me here. What do you like? The non-biased version?
Sure. Well, Tim Scott is a ultimate neutralizer, regardless of what your offense looks like. However, Milltown does have guys that hit. I mean, Tony Rome, Nick Davis, Brenton Cheney, all of those guys having really good years. I guess my question to you is, I know who you're throwing, and I know what your issues have been all year. Do you have your playoff squad showing?
We've got a really good roster. We were unable to qualify perhaps one of our best hitters. He's also one of our better catchers. So that's going to be a little bit of a smudge for us. But the last time we faced Rome, I will say, he was a member of the Webster Wildcats, but we got him for 12 runs and 13 hits with a much downgraded roster. So I feel like with the guys we're bringing, I do feel like we'll be able to scratch across, at least 4, 5, 6 runs. And I gotta say, with Tim going, I feel like that could definitely be enough. We're a team that can play defense too, and we've got our guys there, and we definitely will have a good defensive squad. So I gotta stick with the defending AA champions, the Apple Valley A's, to advance in this first round matchup, and 63.6% of Twitter responders agree.
Milltown, I tell you what, I mean, you were on them early on too. We had expectations from them from the get-go, and for whatever reason, I feel like and you've made the comparison, our teams have parallels aside from being orange and black. So I feel like there's something about this Milltown team that we're just not understanding, and that is just kind of coming together and materializing. And those South teams, when it comes to the postseason, for some reason they all just start to show up. Most teams do, but let's be fair. So for the sake of argument, and for the sake of that, you beat us the other day, and we are co-hosts on a pod and whatever, I'm going to go with Milltown, and they're orange and black, so I already got their gear. So there you go.
I will say, I know, talking to Paul Jess, she's excited about finally tapping into that Dundas Dukes pipeline. So they've got a couple of players that are pulling double duty for those groups. I did check into that town ball schedule. Dukes go Friday, Dukes go Sunday. Will they be willing to go 3 days in a row and play in an Outlaws game in between? Probably. So we're expecting their best punch for sure. Well, the last game to highlight in our AA bracket, the 3-seeded Burnsville Bulldogs versus the 6-seeded Elko Chuggers. This game will be going on alongside of the A's game on the other field. This will be on field 1. The Bulldogs, we've talked about them at length of the way that they've closed their season. Unbelievable run to climb all the way up and grab that 3 seed. Last year, they were in the same spot. They were a 3 seed playing the Milltown Outlaws in the first round. They were able to win that game. Perhaps the biggest difference for this year for Milltown is they don't have to host and take care of fields in between. Right. But Burnsville able to run the gamut all the way to the championship game until they were double dipped by the Apple Valley A's in that championship. But this is a team that is scrappy in the postseason. They have a ton of veterans. They've got 2 pitchers that they rely on, but with this format, that can be enough when Larson and Lowen, each take a game on a weekend and they stay in the winner's bracket. Going to be a huge key for them. Elko, I watched a couple of their games in their deep A bracket run last year. This team showed up in a big way. You could tell that this was a group that was fired up. They were playing probably all together for the first time, maybe all season, and they pounded the ball. I mean, they were such an offensive juggernaut that it really was, I took note of it. But 71% of Twitter responders like the Bulldogs in this one. I'm not even ready to pick yet, so I'm gonna give you the floor.
Well, Burnsville
sway me one way or another.
Yeah. So, Klein, my eyes immediately go to the experienced pitching staff. Been there, done that for Burnsville. They got off to that slow start. Obviously, they got hot, rode a wave. But correct me if I'm wrong, but their schedule wasn't terribly busy the last couple weeks of the year, was it? I mean, I think I might be off base. I might be off base on that. I don't know. But
you're not at all. It definitely, the pace, the frequency that Burnsville played towards the end of the year, I think is going to give them a chance to kind of rest up and get healthy. For a long time, they were on the top end of games played among the entire league.
I mean, conversely, for a team like, the last time I saw them, they're not the youngest group in the world. So does rust settle in, or they keep, there's these little things that could contribute, right? Burnsville's solid. My initial reaction is to trust their pitching. However, Elko's got dudes that can mash, man, and I feel like their offense, if you compare it side by side with the Burnsville offense, especially having to compete in the South with some of the arms down there, it might be the deciding factor here. We might be selling the Chuggers short just off of the reputation of the pitching for Burnsville.
These teams, identical number of runs scored on the season, both of them scoring 116 runs on the year. Coming down to pitching, you got to think that it's going to be Larson to go first for the Bulldogs. It's got to be McDoudero for Elko. He's throwing 51 innings this year for the Chuggers. He's got a 4-1 record with a 3.69 ERA. When it comes to runs allowed, Burnsville was 20 runs better, and that's the reason for the discrepancy in the seeds. Burnsville was the top rated 10-8 team, Elko the lowest rated 10-8 team. Man, I probably just need to flip a coin here and figure this one out. Guess it's Burnsville.
I'm gonna go chugga. I'm on the Chuggers bandwagon. I feel like I just see them showing up and getting the bats going early for some reason.
I think it's a good take. Maybe the Bulldogs have lost a little bit of momentum on the run that they put together with the last month, being less games played for them. But boy, what a run it's been for Burnsville, and
no kidding.
I could definitely see it continuing.
For sure.
Well, it's time now to bring on our Double-A guest. We went to the 1 seed here. We've had a number of rail splitters on the program in the years past. We've got a brand new voice in Joshua Dorr with the rail splitters, and it was fun catching up with him a little bit earlier, but let's go ahead and bring him on. Well, joining us now to represent the Double-A bracket is Joshua Dorr of the Rockford Rail Splitters. Joshua, thank you for joining Fed Up.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, you guys have earned the 1 seed in the Double-A. It looked like a little while that you guys might creep into that Triple-A. I got to ask out the gate, was the team disappointed about not making the AAA, or do you guys feel pretty optimistic about your running the table here and hoisting a cup on the AA, and that was the preferred spot?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you ask on the team, right? But yeah, there's a little bit of disappointment. You always want to shoot for the AAA, right? That's kind of what everybody's shooting for when the season starts. But being the number 1 seed in the AA and getting a chance, it's still going to be great baseball. We're going to have great competition, so it's nothing to be upset about. That's for sure.
Yeah. Before you hopped on here, Chris Miner and I were just talking about the way that you guys play baseball. 45 runs scored this season. You guys got a couple of table setters at the top, and Jeremy Loretz and Todd Haig that just hit for days, run with aggressive speed. It's just a fun brand of baseball. Tell us a little bit about your season and how it culminated in that 12-6 finish.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and the two guys you talked about, Todd and Jeremy, they just continued their storied careers, right? Those guys are just ballers. They show up every time, and hits and runs just happen, which is really, it's a big confidence booster for the rest of us on the team. It's nice to know we have them there. They've come through in big spots. Honestly, everybody on the team's come through in big spots this year. We've had challenges with, like everybody has, right? Enough guys to show up. We're all not getting any younger. We've been joking a lot about what it was like 10 years ago when we all started. Some of us started in the league and we were the young pups, and now we're not. So some of the injury challenges and putting a team together every single time. But when we do, we just, we fight. We always fight. We've always been aggressive. And yeah, scoring runs has not been a problem for us. The new guys we've added this year, like Brian Knight, been a big baller for us. He was our all-star, right? He's been hitting the ball well and scoring a lot of runs. Got guys like Ben Fontana that are always just solid, just a great hitter. So when we have those guys in the lineup, it's great. And then we've added some other new guys, like one of our pitchers, Lance Reynolds, who's, a town baller and has come over to this league and done really well for us. So we're feeling good about it heading into the playoffs here, as long as we can have enough healthy guys.
I'd say there's certainly a lot to be optimistic about. A ton of guys on your squad just mashing the ball. Got some good pitching performances too out of a couple of notables. But your first round opponent, the Lonsdale Jokers, probably don't know a ton about them, given that they're in a different division. Not a lot of matchups between your squads over the years. How much does Todd plan to do some homework and research ahead of this matchup to try and give you guys an edge? Or is he just kind of a guy that has you guys show up and go?
I see. You want us to give away all of our secrets so that no, I'm just kidding. No, honestly, man, we just, at this point in our careers, we just show up and play the best we can, right? Todd probably does some of the recruiting himself and figures out what he's doing, but for the most part, he does. We may talk about a few things here and there if we know what the pitcher, who it is, and we've seen them before, or somebody's seen them. But for the most part, at this point, it's, get a team healthy there and do the best you can.
All right. As a guy who plays in the East, we don't see guys over your way much, but you guys are one of the teams we've actually crossed paths with in the playoffs a few times in the last 5 years. And I just had a question. The optics looking at your guys' team from the outside looking in, it looks like pitching is an issue, or would be maybe the issue. And I'm just wondering, whenever we've seen you in the playoffs, you guys have guys that can just.
I think there's a lot of factors, right? You mentioned a couple of them. Availability is probably the biggest one, right? We all have lives outside of this. We all have kids that are, playing ball themselves. Yeah. We all have stuff, it depends on who you ask too, right? Some of this is their life. For the most part, I don't know. There's something about the playoffs, right? Every team probably has this kind of happen. It's like guys just bring their best stuff, and all of a sudden you're facing everybody's best, right? Which makes it that much more fun, and all of that. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of we've just had the right guys in the right place at the right time sometimes, and then we don't have the right guys when we need them, right? And some of those seasons haven't gone as well. So it just kind of depends.
You mentioned the competitive nature still of the AA bracket. I really felt last year that the AAA was primed for an expansion just because of the teams that didn't get in. I will fully admit that there was a time in around mid-season where I'm saying there's a notable difference between the AAA and the AA. But I would say over the last couple of weeks here, there's some teams that are really ending on a hot stretch that really brings me back to optimism around the AA here. I mean, a team like South Metro cranking out the run that they did. River Falls, the way that they have had their horses show up, and Dave Meyer and Derek Marks. Apple Valley closed strong, among others. Milltown is another one that is really firing on all cylinders here. So I'm glad you brought that up, because the AA here just seems like it could be all up for grabs. All 8 teams really have a chance to win. But is there anything in your guys' camp that kind of leads you to believe that this could be the year that you guys get it done?
Yeah, I think experience, right? A lot of us have been doing this long enough now that we kind of know how this goes, right? And you asked me in the very beginning, like, are we bummed that we didn't get AAA or AA, right? There were so many teams that are right in there now, and that's what's so cool about it is you're right. There used to be this real distinct difference between the two, and now that gap has been closed quite a bit, and there's so many good teams across the board that anybody at the end of the season there could have been either up in the AAA or down in AA. So for us, it's about the guys that are used to being there, understanding what it's like to play the amount of games in the short time that we have, right? And how to use your guys properly and in the right spots, and rest people where we can, and just keep everybody healthy, because it is a lot of games. Hopefully the weather will behave and not be 135,000 degrees, right? For everybody involved. But yeah, it's just about being there before and hopefully being able to take that into this one as well. It's nice being seeded 1, man. That helps out a lot for sure. So,
well, Joshua, I can not thank you enough for your time, for hopping on and representing the AA bracket and the Rockford Rail Splitters. had a number of your teammates on and enjoyed each of those chats. And I can genuinely say that you're probably the only guest we'll have on this week where I do not mean good luck when I say it to you. So looking forward to potentially running into your group in the playoffs, but we'll be watching for sure.
Yeah, let's both go get wins in the first one, right? So we can see each other. It'll be a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Sounds like a plan to me. Thanks, Joshua.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Well, it is time now for our grand finale, the main event, the AAA bracket this year featuring 10 teams instead of 8, that being the most notable difference because many of the teams are not that different. All 8 teams who made the AAA last year are back in the AAA this year. 2 additions being the Tonka Bay Lakers, who infamously and historically, rule-changingly, missed out on the AAA last year.
No. You're sugarcoating it. Last year they were a AA team.
You're right. 0-2 AA team at that.
Well, I didn't say it.
Is that too low?
No.
The other newcomer to the AAA. Yes, that's all. No holds barred. The other newcomer to the AAA being the totally rebranded, no longer TC Snappers, St. Louis Park Snappers. Of course, with that kind of super merger with Newmarket, they able to make the AAA as well. So let's go ahead and dive. First of all, before the matchups, the bracket itself. Some pushback coming from some of the participants in this bracket about how it's been set up. If you look at it, it's going to be a tough road for those play-in team games. So 7 through 10, they've got to play in on Friday night. Then they get one of the reward for winning is to play one of the top 2 seeds. From there, they drop down. They could end up playing 4 games in the first weekend. So it's going to be completely tough sledding for those groups. They definitely have the deck stacked against them.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough enough when things are just kind of standardized where if you have to play 2 or 3 in a weekend, right? So not enviable. Hopefully it doesn't come to that for any of these squads. But yeah, that it's wonky. It's different. We're gonna see how it plays out. But yeah, plenty to be said about it. That's for sure. And it's all warranted, by the way. I mean, I agree. I know how hard it is to try to make these schedules work, and I also know what it's like to be a competitor and feel like, why the hell do we have to do this? So, I mean, it's tough, and hopefully it just plays out pretty smoothly this weekend without too much static.
Yeah, I think that probably the biggest miss here for the league was not getting this bracket out towards the beginning of the season. Giving teams to kind of digest this, to kind of position themselves accordingly. I don't know. Would teams have played a little bit harder? Would they have realized how much more important it is to avoid these playing games? I don't know. Chances are they probably wouldn't have looked at it all season long, and then they'd be complaining about it, right here in the playoffs as well. But then it's shame on them. But right now it kind of feels a little bit like shame on the league for not getting this out sooner. So I think there's some very valid gripes on how this is set up. The 10-team bracket can be really, really difficult, really, really tricky. Maybe the answer for next year to make it simpler, move it to 12. Just reward those 4 division winners with a bye. Comes out a little bit cleaner. We'll have to talk about what that does with the rest of the brackets, but could be expansion time one more time, and maybe we'll get that. We'll close our season 2 with some questions, some feedback that allows the league to kind of lay in on that. So let's go ahead and dive into the matchups. We can start with those play-in games. The first will start at 6 o'clock on Friday night, back at Alley Magnet this year. It will feature the Rosemount Pipers and the Newmarket Northerns. 2 teams that finished with identical records, 13-5 on the season. Newmarket scored 133 runs versus 63 against, 17-4 against 43 against for Rosemount. These 2 teams did have a clash on the schedule earlier in the year. Rosemount came out on top of that one, that game occurring in the middle of June. Christofferson was brilliant. He threw 6 innings, allowed 8 hits, but just the 3 runs. Also went 4 for 4 in the game with a double and 3 RBI. So he was absolutely instrumental in that victory. These two teams also squared off in last year's AAA bracket. The Northerns winning that game by the exact same mirrored score of 8-3. That game then launched the Northerns into that championship game where they eventually lost to the Grays. But it's definitely some recent history between these two teams. What's your take on it?
Maybe it's just a theme for me right now, just kind of the unknown, the upstarts, if you will. Excuse me. Didn't expect much out of Newmarket, right? And then we get a little word, they got some dogs coming in, whatever, and they play the way they play. They sat in that 10 spot in our power rankings all year. You know, the fact that you said that they got 8 hits off Cliff is the part that gets me. So that to me tells me that's a team that's capable of getting on base against one of the best pitchers in the league. If you just said 4, 5, you know, but when you say 8, now I'm starting to think, well, maybe they just hit it right to the guys, or, you know, they're making contact, whatever. Something along with the kind of mysteriousness of Newmarket, plus how much you love Rosemount, I have to be the counterbalance to that. So I'm fishing in the dark right now. I'm a Newmarket Northern bandwagon.
And I love the nitty-gritty dirt pan reference too.
Sorry, Cliff. I love you, buddy. I know. Don't hate me.
Wow, you're just giving a bulletin board materials all you're doing. It's probably not a bad take. I mean, this Northerns team had 9 different guys who had a dozen or more hits this year, 8 of them hitting over 400. Guys like Mike Niemczek, who had 24 hits on the season. Nate Ross had 22. These guys are banging out tons of extra base hits too. I mean, Nate Volbrecht and Scott Lydon each had 6 doubles on the year. Nate Ross had 3 home runs, 27 RBI. I mean, these guys are super impressive when it comes to hitting the ball. So, like you mentioned, 8 hits off of Christofferson is not unnotable. Al Weeman pitched 44 innings for this team this year. Derek Bergstrom threw in a lot of big games for them as well. Both those guys won 5 games in the regular season. Weeman did pitch that game against the Pipers back in June. I feel like this is a spot for some chess, right? With how are you going to line up your pitching? If you know that you could potentially have 4 games in the weekend, how do you start to structure your starters? How do you start to plan for that? You know that in game 2, you're going to see the number 1 seeded Hastings Hurricanes. Are you saving somebody? Or are you trying to win that playoff game at all costs?
I think the minute you start doing that, you're setting yourself up for when you're putting all your eggs in one basket, all it takes is 1 point of failure to ruin all that. There's just something about the way Newmarket swings the bat, seemingly, right? And in the region that they play and the opponents that they play against. I just feel like they're bound to have some kind of announce their presence with authority via the bat this weekend.
Well, 78% of people on Twitter disagree with you. I guess it's been all that drum pounding that I've been doing on the Pipers this year that has potentially swayed some of those. Over 100 people weighed in on that poll. So definitely one of the more games of interest when it comes to the weekend.
I bet you Arms and Hammers on my side.
Yeah, probably a safe assumption there. I don't know. I have been burned by this too, saving the ace. But when you have to play at least 3 games to survive the weekend, I'm tempted to save Cliff in that first game. They have other arms. Peterson is unbelievable. He throws with such velocity.
I was just gonna say Peterson threw really well against us. Kackman started against us and he throws well, and then Peterson came in and just blew the doors off. So they have a couple of capable guys that can beat anybody in the league. I mean, Cliff is the obvious ace. You might be onto something. Personally, I feel like if you think too much, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and you certainly could be right on that. I still think if it's me, I toss Kackman or I toss Peterson there. I take my chances and maybe I'll try and outslug Newmarket, and then I've got Cliff lined up for game 2 to potentially knock off those Hurricanes. But we'll see what Coach Ken Fry does there and how they manage that situation. I've got to stick with my pick for the champion Rosemount to survive in this one. It's too long a road if you lose your first game to come back and win the championship. So I've got Rosemount advancing here. Either way, it's a fun story, knowing that Hastings is going to get somebody who beat them in the playoffs last year, but Rosemount to advance in the first playoff game. But let's flip over to the other one taking place on Friday night. This game starting at 6:15. It's the Lakeville Lobos as the 7 seed taking on the Tonka Bay Lakers in the 10 seed. Tonka Bay finally getting their shot to play in the AAA on the big stage with the big boys. How do you think they'll make the most of the opportunity?
Careful what you wish for. You might see Matt Meyer just to open up your weekend, which is a real cool way to live. Or Steinberg or any of those guys, right? Tonka Bay, sexy to start the year, right? I mean, the pitching speaks for itself. We've mentioned a couple of times or two of the bats. I think they're all right. But that being said, Lakeville's been there, done that. Lakeville has the horses on the mound that it doesn't matter what else is going on. They're neutralize that, just their presence on the mound. So I'm going to take Lakeville.
It's a bold pick. The way that the Lobos have been using Meyer this year, it hasn't been in that starting role. I'm going to guess it's going to be Donnie Erdahl going for the Lobos. I'll guess that Tonka Bay counters with Jim Brower. And if you recall kind of my knock on the Lobos all season, it's been can they hit the best pitching in the biggest games in the biggest moments? And I'm going to say that Brower shuts down the Lobos and Tonka Bay gets the upset win here in the first round. Erdahl having an unbelievable year. In 7 starts, he's got a 5-1 record, an ERA south of 3, a whip of just 1.24. Other options, and Lakeville's got a handful of them. You mentioned potentially Meyer. I think they like him kind of in that closer role where he's able to come in and just pump gas in a big situation and shorten that game from 7 innings down to 6. Austin Mitchell has been great for the Lobos as well. He's actually thrown the most amount of innings for that team all year long, has a very similar ERA, very similar whip, and a 3-0 record to go alongside of it. So it could be Mitchell as well. Steinberg, he threw a really great game against us. But you're going to need all of that pitching to survive this first weekend. So the Lobos definitely in a good position if they are able to string a win together, to be able to keep throwing good arms at people all weekend long. But these teams reward for winning that game, going on to taking on the Minoka Grays. Definitely not a favorable spot to be in, but I do like Tonka Bay to sneak by the Lobos. And Twitter agrees with me. 58.2% of the respondents, 98 people weighed in on that one. Should be a great game nonetheless, but I think the Lobos' troubles are further compounded by the fact that they have lost Brian Ludwig for the season. Hopefully he'll be there skippering still. I don't know if Torrey's planning to be around. From what I've heard, I don't think he'll be at the postseason, so at least not maybe that first weekend. But in other news, congrats to Torrey on the Midwest Speeds National Championship recently. So he is doing some great things outside of the league. We wish he could be with us for certain, but for a third time, Lakers over Lobos. So we'll fast forward then to day 2 of this tournament. We'll start with some fresh matchups here. We'll take on the 4 seed, the East Metro Mammoth, playing the 5 seed in the St. Louis Park Snappers. Unbelievable to think that these teams are 4 and 5 seeds. They are so deep, so strong. The offensive season that the Mammoth have put together might be one of the best in Federal League history. I mean, Nate Stark, I think his mark is going to go down as the 3rd highest batting average in league history. Corcoran wins the home run category, wins the triples category. Stark was right there for the doubles. And then a completely different name, Casey Johnson, ends up winning the hit title. So whatever offensive individual accomplishments were out there were all gobbled up by this Mammoth team. They score 185 runs, which is also tops in the league, allowing just 40. winning games by over 8 per. Grill, we all know what he's able to do, but how is this format change going to serve the Mammoth when it comes down to playing so many games in a weekend? Will certainly be of interest, at least to myself. What's your take on this game? Who do you like?
Well, I mean, we're not breaking any news here that winning that first game or losing that first game makes a huge difference with how you're pitching the lines. You got Grill. Obviously, we've talked about him at length every maybe time we've talked about the Mammoth in this year. But to me, I mean, obviously with the Mammoth, it's who's or any team that's expected to compete for the AAA is who do you have beyond your ace? Grill can go longer than most aces can go, but Gaddis has been throwing really well for them. Kenny Wangler threw a game and a half against us the other day. So I think they are prepared and they have the bats to compensate for perhaps, any deficiencies in a quick turn, a few games on the pitching side of things. So I like the Mammoth. I feel like they just keep kind of doing what they do. They've been kind of just playing it out until this time of year, and this is when they get serious. And we've been on the business end of waking them up and seeing what they're capable of doing when there's something in it for them. They're just one of those teams that rises to the occasion. So I like the Mammoth.
Yeah, it's full of good takes, as you always are. I will add, Mr. Miner. The thing for the Snappers for me is I feel like with the different factions that they've had going on with this group, right? The group coming up from the New Market, Gurmar's group with the Cobras or whatever it is, right? And then the contingency that was organic to the Snappers. It feels like they've been very diplomatic with the playing time, right? They don't have a single arm that threw 20 plus innings on that team.
I was
right?
just going to say, I was prepping for this pod, and the one thing you do is you go through all the stats and everything. And I didn't have enough rows for how many guys they had throw this year, which was wild.
Yeah.
They were the only team that was even close to. There might have been one other, but so that goes to show you it's not, and they're not a team that's just trying to find bodies to. These are guys that can deal, and they are big game pitchers. So you're right. We might be glossing over the fact that they are probably, arguably, the most talented team on both sides of the ball.
I feel like, though, too, like depth can be an asset, especially when you're talking about all these games in a weekend. But depth can also be an inhibitor, if you allow me to make some sense of that. This group, Ryan Marshall had a great year. He hit .571. He had 16 hits and 28 at-bats. Tony Manville had a great year. He was 12 for 25, hit a couple of home runs, drove in 6 runs. But their offensive production, the plate appearances that they gave away was so spread out. Felt like maybe it could have been difficult for some guys to find a rhythm. I feel like there could be some sore feelings, if they go into this and they take what was a pretty democratic approach before and they just put their top 9 out there, right? And now they're playing a little bit different in the postseason than they were in the beginning. This is completely speculative. This may not be an impact at all in this game, but it's ultimately the deciding factor of why I agree with you that the Mammoth will get it done here in the round 1. 67% of responders in this one agree with both of us. Combine that with the history of what the Mammoth have done in this league, in these brackets, it just all adds up to one side of the ledger, in my opinion.
I think there's something to be said. However, I think you're onto something with maybe being too diplomatic, but at the same time, I feel like we might be grasping at things to try to find flaws in some of these teams, right? And St. Louis Park, it just feels like they had a couple weeks ago, they were, unbeaten, whatever, and they ran into that insane stretch of their schedule. And I don't know any team, regardless of if they're a B team or if they're the Mammoth or whoever, the Grays, that is primed to survive a stretch like that. That being said, they came out of it pretty decent.
Let's take on the Minnetonka Saints, the 3 seed, versus the 6, the Waconia Islanders. 2 teams playing in the same division. They ran into each other a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Minnetonka Saints Stole won the first time around these two teams played with a big comeback from behind victory. The second game was more lopsided, once again with the Saints coming out on top. But there's that old adage of how difficult it is to beat a team 3 times in one season. Does it come into play here?
I mean, possibly. First of all, I think this might be the sexiest matchup of the weekend. Both of these teams started out strong and got everyone's attention. And so for me personally, not knowing a ton about Waconia and knowing a little bit about Minnetonka, but being a little more connected, it's going to be a really interesting one to see how this one goes, because I know there's a lot of believers in Waconia.
The Saints were the team that ended up eliminating Waconia as well in that loser bracket a year ago in the AAA. So lots of fuel for the fire for the Islanders. You mentioned this being one of the more sexier matchups. Twitter agreed. More people voted on this game than any other of all the polls that we put up. The results of it, 57% of the responders think the Minnetonka Saints will get this done. I have to say, this is a different Waconia team than a year ago. First of all, they're not hosting, which I think is a huge disadvantage. Whether teams say it is or not, I think it's a huge disadvantage to have that burden yoked onto you over a weekend. So they will be free of that burden. But then when you mix in the kind of guys that they've added this year, mostly notably Scott Marquardt with the year that he had, especially the first half of the season. But then adding a guy like Craig Meyer, who's been really good for them on the mound, he's going to help with a massive push in the postseason as well. I like Waconia to get the monkey off their back here. I think they are going to beat this Saints team. The Saints did suffer a late loss to the Snappers to end their year. Not that that really has any impact on why I think Waconia wins this game. I feel like the way you end a season can certainly carry momentum into, a postseason matchup, especially when the teams are this good and this evenly matched. I just feel like Waconia ending the season 7-1 over their last 8, but I just feel like they have the momentum, they have the arms, they have the upgraded bats. I think Waconia gets this one done.
Well, I feel once Klepp went over and Lewis went over, I feel like that team kind of loosened up a bit. We played them in the playoffs a couple of years ago before that, and they're good, but you felt like they had to be buttoned up. Otherwise, if you give up too many runs, they don't have the bats to do. Well, now they have plenty of sticks to go around. So I might be overthinking it here with the Waconia deal, but there's something about the Waconia team that has me believing in them right now. I can't really put my finger on it.
Let's go ahead and take on the next matchup here. It's one that'll feature the Minoka Grays in their first action, taking on the winner of Lakeville and Tonka Bay. We were split on that one, so we'll just leave it split. I will be picking Grays versus Tonka Bay. You will be weighing in on Grays versus Lakeville. I like the Grays. I don't know if the opponent matters much to me, whoever it is. I feel like they will, have Schroeder going in that one. They will be ready, watching for whoever they end up getting. They will see a good opposing starter regardless, if it's Austin Mitchell, if it's Jamie Steinberg, or if it's, Brandon Wolf going for Tonka Bay. I think that this will more than likely be a low-scoring game, but this is the kind of game that Minoka has consistently come out on top in the last 2 seasons on their way to back-to-back championships. I do feel like you get a bad bounce, you get a bad call here or there. Those types of games can flip in a heartbeat, but I like Minoka to advance at least through this round.
Regardless of who they play, whether it's Lakeville or Tonka Bay, they both have frontline starters. So that's kind of a wash if you ask me, because, Minoka has probably three or four frontline starters. So whoever they throw, he basically, to me, cancels out. I feel like Minoka is more comfortable with who they are this year. They're playing with the silent confidence of a Lakeville from a couple of years ago, perhaps. And on the whole, regardless if it's Tonka Bay or Lakeville, I like Minoka's bats better in aggregate. So I'll take Minoka as well moving on in their first game.
We've got one last matchup to talk about. This winner's bracket will actually carry on to another round, but I feel like 3 rounds in, it just becomes too speculative, and it's not going to really benefit anybody looking at or trying to predict those matchups. But we do have one left. It features the Hastings Hurricanes taking on whoever wins that matchup between Rosemount and Newmarket. As I mentioned earlier, this will be a shot at redemption either way for the Hastings Hurricanes, as they were bounced in back-to-back one-run losses in their only trip to the Federal League Postseason a year ago. This game will be on Saturday at 5 o'clock back at Alley Magnet. I think it's going to be the Pipers and the Hurricanes, and I like one of these teams to win.
I'll go ahead and step out on a ledge for you. To me, Hastings, much like Minoka last year or this year, has more conviction in who they are. They've kind of accepted the fact that, if Tuckner says this and it's polarizing, whatever, it is who they are, whatever. They're in it together. And I think that comfort and that just self-assurance has translated on the field. They've almost flawless, to be honest. If you're talking about an 18-game scope, they've been about as close to flawless as you can get. I think they're different this year. Whether or not it goes past the first weekend, that remains to be seen. But I think they take this opener. They got something to play for this year, a little motivation, chip on the shoulder, call it whatever you want. But combined with the fact that they're kind of lined up and rested, I think they're good to go for a round.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we had a chance to catch up with our AAA guest, who I will reveal now. It's Mr. Nick Tuckner from the Hastings Hurricane. But I will say that when we spoke to him, he seemed like they were prepped. Like they've been looking at this game for a year. Like they've had it circled. They've been counting down. Everything they've done has been led up to this moment. And they just seem like they are ready to go out and punch somebody in the mouth like they've been doing all year. 176 runs for, just 36 against. They have lined up and crushed everybody that they've seen, with the only exception being the Lobos, who had some extra motivation to get that one done. But, it's going to make it really difficult for my Pipers pick to win the AAA championship. But if they lose this game, so I'm going to pick the Pipers, and I'll throw my $10 donation to a really great cause. I do think the Hurricanes are going to win this one, so I sufficiently have both sides of the coin covered here. But I will take the Pipers with my official pick with charity dollars on the line. But I think the way the Hurricanes, you'll see what I'm talking about when we bring our guest on. Should we do it now?
Yeah, let's do it, man. No better time than now.
Well, it's time now to welcome our AAA bracket contributor. It is a frequent contributor to the podcast, the head Hurricane himself, Nick Tuckner of the Hastings Hurricanes. Nick, welcome back to Fed Up.
Gentlemen, so nice to be here. Thanks for having me on. I know probably many of the Fed Up brethren are probably sick of seeing my face on here, but it's sure nice to be back with you guys, and I always love being part of your guys' show. You guys have done such a terrific job. But thanks for having me.
I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, it's our turn to love on you a little bit. Congrats on the Southern Division Championship. Congrats on wrapping up the number one seed. You guys are firing on all cylinders, a record of 17-1. You outscored your opponents this season by a massive margin of 140 runs over 18 games. You got to be feeling pretty good about your squad going into the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 2 regular seasons where we just really played great baseball. Doing some of the math with the guys over the last couple of days to think that the last 2 regular seasons we've gone 33-3. That's pretty crazy. If you'd asked me, a year and a half, 2 years ago, if we'd be sitting here talking about, after 36 games, winning 33 of them, I would have laughed at you, at least, for quite a while. I never thought that we'd be in this position. Damn, I'm thankful for it. I mean, I never turn away being a great baseball team. I mean, one of the things we want to do when we play baseball is win games. And, our guys don't lose sight of that. We're not going to, buy into anything else other than playing great baseball. And we made a point of it after last year. That hurt at the end of the season. We know what happened. We knew there was some weird stuff that went down first game, and it cost us. It didn't work, and we lost. We lost by 1 run, and then we go to play Newmarket and Big Willow about 3 hours later. We lost a couple of guys. The Hawks played later on in the day. They needed some of their guys. We were down to 9. We got beat by 1 run again. 2 1-run losses in the playoffs after going 16-2. that stings. And there's a lot that played into our off season where it was fun the first year, but after what happened last season and the way it happened last season, we're pissed off. And I think a lot of the guys said, all right, it was fun last year, our first year. Now let's go out there and let's win this damn thing. I mean, it's time to play baseball. No gimmicks needed. Like we said, we have everything to prove. That's been our Twitter, our little tag right now is everything to prove in one city. Same with our Legion team that's going to state. Same with our Hastings Hawks who right now are trying to play for a chance to go to state for the first time in many years. This is one city right now. We play for each other in this community. And our team is 98% Hastings guys. It's organic stuff. We play for the right reasons. And this year it's been a classic example of that. I mean, our boys, no matter what's looking at the brackets, we know who stands in front of us. And yeah, 10-team bracket, it's all great and everything, but the two teams that we have to look at playing are the two teams that beat us last year. So, I mean, you get Rosemont or you get Newmarket. You get two teams that are bugaboos in the playoffs. And, this is something that the next couple of days here, depending on when everybody watches this, we're getting mentally prepared, not just physically prepared. The physical parts will take care of itself. We're ready to go.
Well, I love it. And I love your observation there of the bracket. How sweet is baseball providing us with some of these storylines? You guys earned that very well-deserved first-round bye, but then you've got a shot at immediate retribution again from last year, playing either the winner of the Rosemount or Newmarket game. You've added a lot of great talent to your roster. Guys who weren't there last year, like Andy Otto and others, who have really had fantastic seasons for you. Jordy Horsch, I know, is a second-year guy, but finished, among the leaders in hits. Your pitching is deep. You've got all of the tools, everything you need to make a deep, sustained AAA run, and you guys certainly seem motivated and focused.
Some of these new guys with new blood, new energy, they're younger guys, It's fun to have a couple of brother pairs too. I mean, it really does crack the monotony sometimes. You're in a tight game, and then you hear the brothers kind of thinking with each other or whatever. It just kind of gives you that little extra something. And we got some guys that are on our bench too that don't play a whole lot, but they're heart and soul guys. Chase Rubrett got his first hurricane hit in 2 years of playing. He finally got his first hit the other night at Lonsdale. That was probably one of the coolest moments I've been a part of just in amateur baseball, period. Seeing that man get his first hit after going through heart scares, cancer scares this season, and to have him get back on Monday was pretty special. But yeah, those new guys, those rookies, I mean, come on, Andy, Danny Kiefer, Harrington, David Franzen's not necessarily a rookie by trade. He's kind of right around our, mid-40s, whatever, but he's been just a godsend. He can hit the ball, he can pitch, he can field. He's really manned the hot corner well for us. And then you got Mikey Bauer right behind him that can, if Franny's got a pitch, you throw Mikey at third and you don't miss a beat. Defense has been our big calling card throughout the year. We've been really proud of how we play. We like the way that offensively, how we move on the bases. You mentioned Jordy, he's got speed. Everybody knows about Jordy now. It's not a secret that he's one of the fastest guys in the league. And he can be extremely dangerous. It's not just him either. I mean, we got guys that can move around the bases. You look at our numbers, stolen bases wise, and it's pretty amazing to see as many old guys we have willing to take extra bases in key situations. So yeah, I mean, right now, it's about just making sure that we're ready to go. And there was no champagne spraying when we won the South this year. First year we did it. It was kind of special. It was a novelty for all of us. We got a little over exuberant, but after we won it down in Newmarket, there was none of that. There was no champagne bottles. There was no popping anything. It literally went to now it's business. And when we got stuff to attend to, we know what we want to do. We know what the ultimate goal is. We set that, at the end of last season after that last game that, we want to get further than we did last year. And having a 1 seed might help, but when you got two damn good opponents that, you got to get one or the other, thanks for the pickings because either team's going to be a tough out. And it's going to be a hell of a game no matter what on Saturday at 5 over at Al Magnet.
You guys' host site there at Hastings is going to play host to a couple of playoff games, not in the AAA. I believe it's in the A bracket, but just talk about that opportunity to feature a beautiful ballpark and meet it up with Fed Up playoff baseball.
Yeah, so for a couple of years, we've said to everybody in the Fed, hey, if we need a field for anything, let me know. We could try to pull some strings and figure it out. Well, that happened because I think Delano or something else was double booked, and I got a call from Dan Tupper saying, "Now, hey Tuck, we might need a field now." And it was only a couple of weeks before the tournament. And I said, well, I could get it done, but in a couple of weeks, let me see what I can do. So we went into scramble mode with the Hastings Hawks, Hastings baseball, and the city of Hastings to make sure that August 9th is cleared off for Federal League tournament action. So not this weekend, but next weekend on the 9th, that Saturday, we'll have 3 games. I think it's 11, 1:30, and 4:30 or something like that. Mid-afternoon, 3 games just to kind of host it. There's some great teams in the A bracket, and I've had people around town even today as I was on about asking me about some of the teams that are in the A bracket, and I literally pulled my phone out and I'm like, oh yeah, here's some of the teams that are in it. It's kind of fun to tell people what we got going on. So even people in our town that might not necessarily have a spot to go watch the ball games on the 9th, they're going to get a chance to do it. And for everybody that's coming, we're so excited to host you guys. We have a damn good ballpark. We got great people. We got great volunteers. We got good beer. We got great hot dogs, burgers. I know that Miner knows that from experience. But we have fun with it, man. And I know that if I'm not playing, I'm going to be there, probably using my voiceover talents, doing a little PA and some music and stuff like that in the press box, if not selling you some beer and some hot dogs. So we're going to have some yellow and purple hats running around there. And if anybody needs any help, assistance, getting into your dugouts, or if you want to take BP or ask questions, just ask for a yellow hat. We can help you guys out. We're just so excited to have you guys come down and rock and roll. We've been on the tractors, really get things going, make it look really cool. So yeah, we're just all, right now it's a great time in Hastings because of our Legion team season in state. So it's their time now to take that second step, get into that second round, and really start to make some noise. We're hoping to do the same with the Hawks. Love to see them get in the state tournament and really make this Hastings baseball thing rock and roll here over the next couple of weeks. It's so exciting right now, and just to have the Hurricanes as a part of this now and really adding to the mix has been so special.
Always a treat to have Nick Tuckner on. He's bringing the energy, bringing the focus, bringing the determination and drive. I know if he had it his way, he will be back on with Fed Up in a couple of weeks for the Toast of the Champions. Gotta love your group. The 1 seed heading in. Guys are most likely the favorites in your own mind, but still a team with a lot to prove, a city with a lot to prove, but we'll be watching for sure. Best of luck to you in the postseason.
Thanks, guys. See, it might be smoky today, but look at this place. You guys in the A, I just want to welcome you guys to Hastings the next weekend, and can't wait to see everybody, smiling faces. Guys I haven't met yet, I can't wait to do so. So thanks a lot to everybody. Good luck to everyone. Win or loss, have fun, and let's play some baseball, guys. Thank you so much for having me, as always.
Thanks, Tuck.
See you, gentlemen.
Always great to have a repeat contributor on the podcast, and Mr. Nick Tuckner. Now you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the energy, the focus, the drive. He always brings it, and they certainly seem like a team that is motivated.
As a player on a team of 35 and older guys, you could have worse problems than the guy that's excited to lead your team. I'll just say.
That's true. Well, that concludes our AAA bracket. Real quick, I'm going to go on record with my 4 champions. I'm going to compare them to my preseason picks. Preseason in the B, I had the Northfield Millers. Couldn't predict that they would withdraw. They would have won it had they entered. So I'm going to give myself a check mark and nailed that one. But since they're no longer a pony, I've got to change horses here. I'm going to go with the 1 seed in this one. I'm going to take St. Anthony Norseman to get it done. Moving on to the A, my pick preseason was St. Michael. If you remember right, I picked them to lose in the first round. I don't think that they have the pitching to get all the way back to repeat, but I'm going to stick with my horse. So lose in game 1, and then it's the Pluff model show to run the table like the A's did last year. I'm sticking with St. Michael to be my champion in the A. In the AA, we picked the South Metro Saints, but we're changing horses. With the A's in that bracket, I mean, how do you not go with the green and gold? They're a team that won this a year ago. I certainly have, in my opinion, my very biased opinion, the best pitching in that bracket. I'm going to switch to the A's in that one. And then the AAA, it's been the Rosemount tune coming out of my pipe all year long. They certainly have a very, very difficult path ahead of them to get it done, but we're going to stick with them to hold the cup and the top prize at the end of the year. Want to weigh in on any future speculation just to officially be on the record with our listeners?
Look, if you know anything about me, I don't like committing to anything because I don't like to be held accountable for anything. I think all your picks are good. I think it's fun that we get to do this. And just as a general note, I mean, we're already at the end of the regular season. We're heading into playoffs, and the season's going to end for half the teams in this league in a few days. It's wild to me how much this has flown by. So I guess my thing, teams are gonna get eliminated, teams are gonna move on, whatever, get stressed about it. But try to enjoy this weekend, man, because this weekend is without a doubt the best weekend of this Federal League season, just because of the fellowship, the people that are around. You get to check out just the action and just getting to know the people. This is without a doubt the best weekend. So whether or not you move on, I'm sure there'll be plenty of beer drank, brats, burgers consumed, stories told. So enjoy the weekend. I'll be there for as much of it as I can, taking some video and stuff. So this is the last ride for most of us. So let's enjoy it.
Great words of wisdom there from our executive producer. I as well will be on site at LA Magnet for most of the games. Would love to make it out to other sites, but please feel free to come up and strike up a conversation. Give us some tips, some new ideas heading into the end of the year. Our next week episode is going to feature results from all of the games that we just covered, and then we'll do some more prognosticating on where the brackets stand for the rest of the way, because I enjoy that and it's fun and it's part of the reason we do this.
Some more money from you for charity.
Absolutely. So make sure you tune in next week to see how the picks came out and see how much we are donating to Rhino's cause. But until then, enjoy the weekend, like Chris said, and stay fed. Welcome to Fed Up.